It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. Another podcast. I'm finally back after weeks to see everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me back. All right. Today we're going to talk about OSN, but first, podcasters, introduce yourselves and say hello. People know who you are, starting with our special guest.
Special. Ooh, I'm special.
Absolutely.
The definition of special is yet to be determined, however, but my name is Jennifer Eamon. I'm a consultant at SDG, and I had the distinct pleasure of being able to be one of the panelists at one of the talks at Open Source North. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. I'm Chad Jettner. I'm also a consultant at SDG, and I was delighted because I also got to be on the same panel as Miss Eamon, and we had a blast.
I'm just plain old Peter Lawrence, consultant at SDG. No panel and no Open Source North this year.
And I'm Kyle Bacher. I'm the IT department for SDG, and I was not at OSN, but I heard a lot of great things about it. And today we're talking about OSN, doing a little bit of a recap. Before we get into it, I have some stats. 1,200 people registered, 1,100 people showed up, which is pretty good. Conferences, 48 presentations, 42 sponsor tables, and an amazing day and overwhelmingly positive response. So congratulations to the organizers and the speakers and participants and the sponsors and all of the people. St. Thomas, I heard it was great. And now I feel a sense of loss that I was not there. I do. And I actually looked through the list of the 48 presentations, and there would have been plenty that I would have liked to have seen. So I'm going to be sad now for the rest of the hour.
So besides the panel, which obviously was the best one, with seeing as we have two panelists here.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It could be nothing. Yeah, I've heard great things. It's all over the internet. What were some other standout presentations that you guys?
Well,
Jen, you go first.
There was a lot of ones, and I'm going to open up the book just to make sure that I have.
That's totally fair. 48 is a hard number to memorize. That's for sure.
Yes. So I went to one that I really liked was the role of generative AI in healthcare. I mean, it was very on point for me because since I was doing the panel about ChatGPT, happy to be right afterwards. I actually learned a lot of stats and a lot of stuff about how healthcare is using AI that I had no idea about. There have already been approved algorithms, FDA approved algorithms for healthcare to use by the tune of 350 some odd. 10 of them approved to be used autonomously. So their results don't have to be reviewed by a healthcare provider. That would scare me a little. I don't know what it is that they're using these AI algorithms for, so I'm sure it's fine.
So if it's hangnail, that's one thing, but if it's brain tumor, then maybe
have a doctor review it. But I thought that was really interesting, and the idea of where AI is going to be going in the use to help make things better with healthcare. That one was really interesting. I like that.
There was a lot of AI covered. It's almost as though it's the hot topic this year.
I actually had to didn't really apologize, but I was like, I'm on the one API AI panel, but it seemed like every hour the entire conference there was at least one AI presentation you could have gone to. I like the way. I mean, we'll talk about this later, Jen, but our approach to it was not necessarily a technical deep dive, more of a kind of an overview and kind of just how does it actually impact you in your daily life, right? So not an industry specific, not a deep dive, a technical thing, but how does it actually change what you do and how you do it. That was actually really fun. My favorite panel that I was on, or not panel, my favorite session was there was this woman, Kate Warden from Netflix, and she had this talk about the 4 reasons your best engineers are leaving. And that was actually really, really good.
That's an interesting.
What was the number one reason that stuck out to you?
The number one reason was lack of engagement. That was a huge thing.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that. Totally.
Yeah. So she listed all the reasons, and then she listed some things you can do to make people feel how to counteract the reasons, right? And so she did. She gave an amazing presentation filled with a ton of memes. I think is that what the kids are saying? Memes.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
It was engaged. I mean, it was almost a clinic on how to put together a presentation that is engaging, that people like pay attention to, like that didn't lose anybody. She did an amazing job.
I love using memes in my presentations. Every slide needs at least one meme.
Yeah, the opening slide was literally the one with the dog surrounded by the fire. You know, when he's holding a coffee cup that says this is fine.
Fine.
Yeah, that was how she opened it.
I am quite familiar with that one for odd reasons.
Yeah, or like a lot of reasons.
Right.
And then the other one, it was a great topic and it was good. It was there's a young man, Zach. He's at Cargill. He gave a presentation on how and why you should write boring code. And the content of that one was actually real. I mean, it was great, right? He gave all the reasons why boring code is better than like cute little syntactic sugar tricks that, and everything else. Why you should be explicit, why boring code is the best code, and why deletable code is way more valuable than like intricate logic wrapped in loop, like all sorts of stuff. So that was a fantastic presentation.
You said sugar tricks and I wanted cereal.
Syntactic sugar, yeah.
So I was looking through some of these, and like the healthcare one stood out to me as well of one I would like to see. The idea of the ability for a language model or an AI to more personable, more human. I can see benefits of that in like an intake process, versus just a form with check boxes. The ability to answer questions while you're going through that intake process. I've gone through a lot of intake processes, guess is what I'm saying. So, and they could have gotten better. I never know what list your pain between 1 through 10. Well, I want help, so it's always a 10. What's the problem? I have a sliver. So back to
really
OSN.
Irritating.
Yes. What else did you see?
I saw this really cool guy. Don't get to see him very often, so it was really neat to actually be able to run into him. His name is Chad Jutner. It was cool.
Well,
I mean,
that's a good point,
though.
It was it was kind of a perfect day, though, right? Because I mean, Jen, you had a little emergency the day before OSN, so we chatted that night, and and you and I were able to hang out at breakfast. We went to the Ideal Diner, had breakfast, reviewed the notes for our presentation, for our panel that we were going to give in 3-4 hours. While I was there, I actually got a text from somebody else that was volunteering at OSN. They were running super, super late, and they had to be in a room. I forget what time, right? Like 8:15, and they weren't going to be there till right on the nose. So I stopped. I went from Ideal to Starbucks, and I got coffee and croissants for somebody that wasn't able to get the breakfast because I know this person, and they would be really grumpy and salty all day if they didn't have their caffeine.
I know who you're talking about, and I agree. It was a public service. Right. I
wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it for everybody else. Right.
Everybody, all the other 1,100 folks there.
Yeah. And then we get there, and I'm literally hanging out with all of my favorite people and some of my new favorite people. The panels were great. It was well organized. I mean, plugging anybody, but like once you found a place to park, it was perfect. It was great. It was like that campus is an ideal spot for this because
it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was getting between the buildings on a perfectly the weather was perfect.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it was almost like a treat. Like, ooh, I get to go to the other building because now I get to go walk outside for a little bit because it was so nice out. And they had the fountain going, and a bunch of people sat outside to eat lunch.
So even on a beautiful day, they had a good attendance, right? They weren't losing people to sunshine, which is nice. You guys both talked about, sort of running into a little bit facetiously, but running into people that you see and running into people that you may have, worked with in the past.
But you know what? It's funny. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, finish up.
I was gonna say it was really fun because there was actually a gentleman that I ran into that I used to work with prior to coming to SDG, and calls my name out from behind, and I'm like, what? It was so fun to run into. I always forget how much of a small world our community actually is. I ran into probably half a dozen people I hadn't seen in years, and then I got to meet people too. Some people from across the country that were in, because a bunch of people flew in, and it was a lot of fun, and everybody was always so nice. That was my favorite part. Everybody's always was just.
Well, that's the biggest thing. Nice. So yeah, Jen and I mean, we've both been doing this for more than 2 decades now, and.
Like for yourself. I'm just approaching 2 decades.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Jen. I've been doing this for 2.5 decades. I think you're 5 years in? You just graduated college, so you're just.
You got to use combined experience.
Yeah,
I am an old 25.
Yes, but I found my experience between sessions and everything, and between just hanging out in. Like the vendor section. If I told somebody I'll be back in, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in 5 minutes. That always turned into like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, just because you can't walk more than 10 feet without seeing somebody that you haven't seen at least since before COVID times, right? If not longer.
Oh, right.
And so I had that experience constantly where I would just like vaguely recognize somebody, and thank God we were all wearing badges because I'm horrible.
Hey, you?
Yeah.
Oh, that is the worst. Yeah. I had my spouse was able to join me, and it was the worst. You're like, hey, and I'm like, I should introduce my spouse that is standing right next to me to this person, and I'm like, covering up your tag, man. You can't. It's etiquette, people. Don't cover up your name tag.
There you go.
Yeah, I learned. So that's actually a trick that I use. Like if I bring somebody with a lot, and if I see somebody I vaguely recognize, I'm like, oh, I know that person. And I'm like, hey, this is my buddy Jen. But I won't introduce the other person. I'll wait for them to actually say their name. I'm like, there it is. That's wherever.
From 7 years ago, back in the old days.
Has anybody figured out like to print a double-sided name tag
so that when it flips over? Yeah. Because you get those lanyards, half the time they're flipped over.
Yeah.
It's funny because on ours, if you flipped over your name tag, that's where the drink tickets were. So if their name tag was flipped over,
you just knew if you wanted to hang out with them later at the happy hour or not.
Do they have the default 2, or do they have a little stack tucked in behind their name tag? That is a benefit
to running into people, because if you run into a bunch of people, inevitably some of them aren't going to be making it to the happy hour, and they say, oh, I'm not going to make it. You want my drink tickets? And I was
like, nice. So making good connections and making use of other social time afterwards, right? So the conference is followed up by happy hour. I don't know how long it went this time, but I know it tends to run variable length.
I would like to say, Jen, that we pretty much closed it down for the happy hour, right?
I think so. I mean, there was still maybe half a dozen people plus when we walked out that door, but compared
to the fact that when we got there, all 1,100 were there, and we left 6 people in the happy hour. Right. Those are pretty good stats.
I will say this. If anybody from the company that organized it happens to watch this, having a special line to get your drinks for the speakers would have been.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, if your badge says speaker on it, there should be a few different
priority
things, right?
Drinking, right?
Yeah.
You're just saying that if they had multiple sources, it would make it better for everyone, because you guys wouldn't be taking up and clogging the regular line. You'd be using the less populated line and keeping things flowing, so to speak.
Yes.
I do like that. I think, Jen, we might be able to bring that to some folks and say, hey, here's because we're always soliciting feedback, right? Right. And ideas for an improvement, and that might be a terrific one. Is maybe there's a special line for speakers. Maybe speakers have their own bathroom.
Maybe there's no drink tickets, but if you have speaker, that's like a wristband.
Yeah. There you go.
Was there food?
Incentivized.
Were there snacks?
There were snacks. I would want. Actually, I was surprised. I didn't realize there was going to be snacks at the happy hour, but there were. And from what I hear, there were some meatballs. I didn't get a chance to get them because I was too busy talking, and then they were gone because apparently they were really, really good. So
yeah, there was some
5,000.
Yeah, there was like a curry flavored meatball that was spectacular. I never had, the flavors were just amazing. So happy hour was amazing.
Catering was good.
Catering was good.
Yep.
Event, like I was amazed at how smoothly it flowed from one thing to the next, right? Like the cadence between sessions was pretty perfect. It couldn't have been that much, I couldn't have planned it that much better. Or I couldn't have planned it any better. I'm sorry.
The only thing I could have planned better would have been I would have chosen to wear better shoes. I should have known. I should have known. But man, what do you do? High heel wedges were so darn cute. Like,
if I may, Jen, your wedges were cute. So that was,
it was worth it.
Never worth the pain. No, I go practical comfort every time.
I feel like I was just out of practice because of COVID. I mean, they were less comfortable than the slippers I wear every day. So I just need more practice. That's all.
So let's see. There were 6 sessions, 8 rooms. Room size, great. Everybody had room to learn.
Yeah, I think there was one of the last sessions. I didn't get a chance to go to this specific one, but which I don't remember what it was. But there was standing room out the door. Was what like there were people out the door watching it. So I think that's got to be a really hard one trying to figure out which rooms to put which talks in because but I do know. I mean, there was a lot of ones that were very popular.
Is this a humble brag? Are you talking about our panel discussion? Because that was that kind of.
I was able to make it to that one. I really was. No, this was one of the last sessions in the day. She sent me actually a picture, and she was standing outside, and it was the room had kind of glass panels on the side, and then there was the door, and there were people standing outside watching through the glass panels. But for the most part, all of the ones I went to, the rooms were really good size. Perfect. I think they just maybe that one next time they'll know that topic is
super hard to know if like the 6th talk on AI is going to be popular or not. Right.
How many people are going to be leaving early and
Right.
I just looked through the list of speakers, and there's 2 people I used to work with that spoke. I haven't seen it forever. And now I feel total sense of loss. My FOMO is justified. I did miss out.
Oh,
yeah. So, Derek, if you're listening, I apologize for not showing up.
Well, maybe you can make it up to him somehow.
I'm going to reach out to him and I'll probably send him a card, maybe some flowers.
Some flowers.
That will not happen.
That might get awkward.
It's really awkward. Yeah. Stuffed animal with a sad face. Or I miss you.
Since we're talking about the speakers, I was actually kind of impressed with the, for a local conference, we drew in some really, really, really great speakers, right? We had woman from Netflix. I was in a great talk about from this given by this woman from Redis. That was really cool. So the quality of speakers that were at the event, I mean, I don't know, Peter, you were at previous OSNs, I'm sure, right? Yeah. Me, this is my first one. It just never lined up for me. But previous OSNs, was it always like, I kind of remember the brochure and it was relatively local-ish companies, not always like national or international names like we got this year, right?
It's certainly getting bigger, right?
Yeah.
And as the conference itself grows and probably grows itself into a new venue, because I know they were at maximum capacity for this time.
They're actually going to be expanding the campus to accommodate more speakers.
Building
just for that reason. Yeah,
just for that reason.
They're going to add some college.
I thought I saw some building happening while I was walking from.
They started. Yeah, they laid the groundwork and actually started the construction that day in response to it.
Yeah.
So I just realized I had the COVID and the brain fog for like the last 3 weeks. And then before that, a vacation. And then, no wonder I wasn't paying attention and showing up. I've been out of it. So I have an excuse now. There will be no sad face stuffed animal sent out. Sorry.
Okay.
Man, you got poor Derek's hopes up.
I know, right?
Now you got to send him a sad face bear because you said you weren't going to send him one.
I've been foisted on my own petard.
Just not to take away from this, heartfelt podcast call out, but I know that we do get pretty good national coverage and some big names for the speakers at OSN, and it's probably going to continue, right? Because I know all the sponsorships are sold out well in advance and everything else. So
yeah,
it's been a hit. And the power didn't go out the day before.
Would it like a second day would, as a bigger camp, like what is the growth potential? Like, should it be bigger? Should there be more? It was so good. Should there be more of it?
Well, that's a good question for you guys. Did you leave wanting more?
Second day would have been really cool, I think.
Yeah. I think, they had so many good sessions. It was, I do this with conferences all the time, but it's so hard to pick and you always feel like you're missing out because you have to choose. Right. So it'd be nice if a second day and they kind of split it out, not so many concurrently, but.
Can't be in 6 places at once.
Right.
Yeah. What about 2 days, but it's the same both days?
No, I think a second day would have been perfect, right? Because then the one thing that I had trouble with is like, well, I've seen all these. I really barely visited the booths, right? Because there was session.
I'm not and then 5 times fast.
Exactly, and then I was so I didn't want to not be in a session because it was all great stuff. Right. But if there was a second day and I wasn't feeling like I was missing out by not like skipping a session to visit all the vendor booths, then I might do that. I will say like having this on a college campus is absolutely perfect because the rooms that are set up for lectures are absolutely perfect for what we're doing, like how we're for the types of demos and presentations that we're giving. So like the venue itself, I mean, if we can get even more rooms next year, absolutely perfect. It was, I can't speak highly enough of the venue. That was amazing.
So better than flat concrete floors and mobile projectors on a screen.
Yeah, on like one of them little portable like fold out screens. Yeah, no, this was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then as a speaker, like our room was amazing. The setup, everything about it was pretty great. It was a little freakish to turn around and see your face like blown up that big, like that huge projection was.
Even regular size is freakish. Your face, Chad. Thank you. I'll be here all week. So let me ask you this. Were there any, like, as you watched all the sessions, was there any information that blew you away?
Well, Jen, you had the AI and healthcare thing, right?
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like that was those stats and stuff and stuff that they were talking about what they're doing. That stuff kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
AI, ChatGPT telling us about dive bars. That was.
Are you hyping our own presentation right now, Jen?
What? I would never shamelessly promote. Come on.
No.
So Chad had nothing to do with the dive bar.
Sessions, sure. Good sessions at each hour. There was something you wanted to see all the time.
There was something that I wanted to see all the time. And I wish, I do kind of wish some of them were. I don't understand why we're not recording them, but some of them would have been well served to be recorded. Like the one that I talked about, why your best engineers are leaving. Mm-hmm. God, I wish I could have recorded that and played it back for a number of people that I interact with and have interacted with in the past. It was so much great information presented so perfectly. I would want to replay that one just as a clinic for other people that want to give a presentation and keep your audience like glued. Then the actual content of that presentation should be essential reading for every HR department in our industry. Like
any manager or anything like that.
Any HR manager, any kind of manager or any kind of leadership role, you should watch that and see and pay attention to what that woman's saying.
So there was engagement. Can you share any other nuggets from that one that stand out in your head?
Yeah, I mean the best one, and it seems super obvious, but she had up salary bands, and she said companies absolutely need to stop trying to get a resource at the least possible price, right? Like pay a resource according to a salary band, according to their title, according to their location, according to everything else. It costs a lot less for a company to just give a resource an extra $10,000 than it does to whittle them down to their lowest possible number and then do your best to try to keep them in that position for as long as you can. Because if you don't give them that money, their next gig is going to find them a little bit quicker than if you didn't. That thing was great.
Did she really talk about that, or is your review next week?
I don't think you were in that one. This was at a 10 o'clock one. I think you were in a different session, right?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Well, I mean, we don't even have to agree with it. She backed it up with data, right? Like there was, she had the cost of hiring more resources, the cost of, and especially for, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that our company specifically, but other companies too, like the cost of replacement versus the cost of just retention is, it's skewed so much, right? So, yeah, that was key. I mean, that's a salary issue that, gets touchy with some folks, but I don't know why. But
well, it's like that can go into like any area of your life, like hiring painters, and you get what you pay for. And then, but you're talking about that replacement cost, the ramp up, the overhead in retention versus the other thing.
Well, have you guys ever been on a project where whenever you hire somebody new, the ramp up was less than 3 to 6 weeks just to get them to a point where they're really productive?
Oh my gosh. I just ramped up one of our consultants on an internal bench project yesterday for an hour and a half, and they got a gig. And I'm like, my rule for internal bench projects is once you get a gig, you are free. Focus on your customer 100%.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So he's like, I'll try to do a handoff. Like, no, I'll do the handoff. You are free to go.
Right.
Go on, fly and be free. But that ramp up is like frustrating.
Most of the projects I always end up on are so big and so complicated. It takes forever just to get somebody. I mean, they can get in and be useful right away, but to really have them rocking and rolling, it's almost always 4 to 6 weeks. And if you could just keep really good talent that you had and not have to waste that time spinning, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and not to harp on that too much, but like when you bring on a new person, it's not just their time, like getting them 3 to 6 weeks to ramp up, right? Like whenever I bring somebody new onto one of my projects, it's my time too. Like I spend half my week is gone. Not gone, right? Like it's all valuable, good time well spent, but like it is, you do spend not just the resource getting them up to speed and getting them to a point where they can contribute meaningfully to your project, but you're taking time away from everybody around you. Like your team's velocity dips a tiny bit for a while. And
just the meet and greet. Just everything adds up.
Yeah.
So, look through that. A lot of good topics. One of the things that kind of keeps me away is I've always been like a configurator, not a programmer. Mm-hmm. And so for some reason, just the name of the conference kind of like makes me think it's going to be over my head. And when I looked through the list of stuff, I realized that there was a ton of stuff that I would have really liked to watch.
Because it wasn't all technical, right? There was, I mean, besides the Netflix talk, and I have her name here, but I don't. Besides that one, there were others that were talking about technical business rather than technical doing.
Yeah. Wasn't there some DevOpsy stuff too? I thought I saw a couple on there. Yeah.
So, there was a lot of DevOps stuff. Like GitOps was a great I didn't get to go to it, but I talked to the young lady that was giving it before. So there was a lot of DevOps related stuff. There was it seemed like there was intentionally some sort of management track. So like if you're responsible for people and not delivery, it seemed like every hour we mixed in at least some kind of presentation specific to you. GitOps, there it is. Monica from IBM. That's right. It seemed like they geared it towards like 3 or 4 different types of roles. There was something for DevOps engineers. There was something for developers, obviously. And then there was something for people tangentially attached to technology career paths. So
I think that's great that they acknowledge and specifically look for that kind of stuff, because the IT industry isn't just developers. I mean, it wouldn't exist without our DevOpsies. It wouldn't exist without our managers. It wouldn't exist without our BAs and our Scrum Masters and stuff. It takes a village.
Another kind of question or thought or whatever. I see a lot of names that aren't necessarily, I don't know how to say this, but white males or whatever you want to talk about, which is sort of the IT industry anchor,
demographics.
Whatever we want to call it.
But I think that is an old ideal, to be honest. So I've been a woman in the IT industry for coming up on 20 years now. And I would say, when I first got into it, it was for sure.
You're the lone
it was.
Person.
I mean, and even 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I'd join a team, and as far as developers go, I would be the only woman on a team of 20, 30 people.
Right.
But I think I'm definitely seeing that change a lot more and more and more. I mean, there were many faces of many types.
Awesome.
At the conference yesterday, and
that's what
actually,
I was trying to get at. It's like the diversity was good, and
if you just look at our panel of speakers, I mean, it's a pretty diverse mix of folks from all walks. I think it's
and that wasn't we weren't intentionally trying to do that. We just picked the right people. Like, we were picking the good people that wanted to talk about it, and it just happens that way because that's the mix that we have. Like, it's not we weren't going out of our way to try and diversify. We were just picking the good people, and good people are diversified. That's all.
100%.
So what as a speaker, what's have you been an attendee in the past, and what's different about being a speaker versus an attendee at an event like this?
Well,
besides no drink line.
Right. I would say for me, so I've spoken at several different cons, and this is the first time speaking at OSN, but they always put me after lunch, and for me that's terrible because now I can't eat. Like, I always get that. Like,
everybody's tired.
Yeah, and that's fine because I usually do okay waking people up, but just yell at them. That's what I just yell at them. Yeah. But
I think the thing for me was, and you're touching on this, Jen, is like, I was listening to all the sessions I went to before our panel discussion. But in my head, I was thinking about all of the tangents and all of the ways that our thing could go wrong. Not stressed at all, because that's not but like, just my head wasn't in everything prior to ours. Then once we had our discussion, I very much enjoyed the next session that I was in after that.
Sure.
I was able to relax a lot more. So going as a speaker, and maybe this is just because this is my first time speaking at OSN, and specifically speaking at OSN in front of a lot of our colleagues, right?
Yeah.
That added a little bit more topspin to the anxiety about what we were talking about and how we were saying. This is why I was trying to prep so much. Like, leading up to OSN, damn near every weekend I was doing a little bit more research and playing with different things. So like, I wasn't really nervous because I knew what I was talking about by the time we talked, knowing I was talking not only in front of a room full of more than a couple hundred strangers, but a room full of my own colleagues. I really wanted to make sure.
You're inspired to bring your A game, especially in looking at the other speakers. You're like, you want to hang with people at that level, that and the people in the room. There's a lot of pressure. I've spoken at some conferences in the past, and I've looked at who I'm up against, but the company I'm keeping, and it's always energized me to kind of give it everything I have.
Yeah.
Jen, you were saying that your compatriots had no trouble speaking to you as though they'd worked with you for years and years, and
yeah. I feel like it. Well, I had to add. I actually was prodding a company. I'm like, tell me honestly, how did it go? Did we cover things that you were interested in? Did you wish we would have covered more? Because I think everybody's like, oh, that went good. I'm like, yeah, it did. Now let's get real.
I was trying to get the same thing, but I didn't want to ask too many people because I think people default to being nice.
Right.
Yeah.
We are in Minnesota.
So I did get good feedback. The only feedback I got is we should have used the microphone more. That was it. Yeah. Nobody really cared about everybody thought the content was great. The topic was obviously good. It was mostly like, the only feedback I got was logistic feedback. And then I was drinking a Rockstar energy drink. I actually had 2 of them while I was on stage. And the other feedback I got is that was a baller move, cracking open a beer and drinking it while you're on a panel. I'm like, it was an energy drink. It was a black can.
No, the marketing has gotten so confusing.
It kind of makes you want to crack open a beer next time, right?
Yeah. Next time you can get away with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, next time. It's actually, we're gonna have a 12-pack out, and we'll just pull from that.
We joked about that. Like, if Chad was talking too much, I was just going to crack a beer and hand it to him so he would have something else to do.
Yeah, it's like giving a dog some peanut butter. It would have just
right.
Yeah.
So
we had a lot of ideas on equitable distribution of time when we're talking. Right. I liked our squirt gun idea.
I do too, but others were not so fond of that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, so you guys did a panel, and so that's multiple speakers. Did you guys get the balance right with the exception of microphone? Was there one microphone to pass around, or?
Yeah, we only had the one microphone. It would have been nice if we would have had more than one.
Sure.
Because I don't know, it was just kind of awkward. If Chad had it way down at the end and I wanted to say something, like, how do you signal to him to pass it down? That part.
You'd have to tackle him.
So standing in a big group and handing the microphone around, which would have been awkward seating-wise, but
that would have looked messy.
Right. I did think about balling up some tinfoil and just throwing it, but
okay.
I also have terrible aim when it probably would have hit an audience member.
We could have attached string to our fingers, right? And everybody can pull on the string, like a little subtle, nonverbal. I want the microphone.
Or not so subtle. Just all of a sudden pull your hand and you smack poor Shui in the head.
Yeah, I think we did mostly okay. I think with an equitable distribution of time.
Cool.
I do too.
Maybe
were you even thinking about that problem beforehand?
Oh yes,
for sure.
Okay.
Yes. We wanted to make sure that everybody was able to get all of their, everything they wanted. It was tricky because it was, some of the content skewed developer focused, some of it skewed, most of it skewed on the heavy tech side, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to give the non-technical folks, queue them up for things to, present. But we thought long and hard about that specific thing.
Yep.
Getting everybody time. And then nice. One logistical thing that I almost screwed up. You plan and you plan and you plan and you plan, right? And the entire time I was planning on presenting, I had the slide up, powered by my laptop, my personal laptop. Then when we were on stage, I had this moment where I panicked. I think you might have seen this, Jen, because at the end of it, we were going to have the slide up for the entire time. And it was basically just an intro. Like, here's the 5 people that are talking right now. We were going to swap to a live demo of ChatGPT with some seated questions. The thing that I kind of that I panicked about, though, was, holy crap, before I do that, like, my laptop screen, the entire screen is being shared right now. What else did I have up in the background before I put that slide on full screen? And so I'm a MacBook guy, right? All my messages are synced throughout all my devices. I'm like, did I have Messenger up? Was that up? Is there anything bad there? Did I have Slack up? Did I have this up? Did I have that up?
Talk about a distraction while you're trying to talk.
Dude, so at the end of it, and that was in my head the entire time. So at the end of it, Nick Brecken did a phenomenal job of moderating our discussion. Nick Brecken was, kind of like looking at me and hinting like, okay, because it was kind of a pivot point. We could have shown something, we could have not. And he's like, all right, Chad. I was shaking my head. He's like, do you want to show ChatGPT now? And leading up to him actually finishing that question, I was like, no.
Chad,
but he didn't take
shaking off the pitch.
And so I'm like, oh God, okay, so here I go. I guess
it worked out great.
It did work out great. Luckily, I was way too far in my own head. There was nothing else up. It was literally just PowerPoint and I had Safari up with the ChatGPT thing, just like I thought I did. But you panic about this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did I turn the iron off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that was a little bit more like, we got together, since we all work together. We're at different clients and stuff, but we work together. We got together several times ahead of time just to talk about the logistics, make sure, we understood kind of where each person kind of was coming from, how we could maybe interact to make sure that we're giving each other equal time, making sure that we were opening up opportunities for more like the less technical side of things, that kind of stuff. But we always devolved into conversations about ChatGPT, and then we would have discussions, and we had so many just fun discussions that I started going, all right, I have these things I want to say, but how much of it is going to be something that somebody else was also planning to say, because it was really their contribution to the conversation in one of our previous meetings. I'm like, I don't want to step on their toes and take, kind of steal their ideas, if you will. Somebody would throw out a stat and I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting stat. And then later they're like, I want to give that stat. Like that was, I did that research. I want to give that stat. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You did. I just got it all jumbled in my head because we had already talked about it.
Right.
And so for me, it was more challenging. I'm used to normally doing like the 45-minute talks by myself. And so this was the first time I'd ever done a panel. And so that was, for me, that was a lot more challenging to try and make sure that not only was like, I'm used to talking for 45 minutes straight. I have no problem with that. Making sure that I don't do that and giving other people time, but also I'm not kind of poaching on the topics they might want to touch on because we all have a lot of agreements, but we also had disagreements. I think my last thing I said on stage was, Chad, you are wrong.
I feel like no matter what I had said at the end, you would have said that. Even if I was right, you would have said, yeah.
No, I give you credit. I give you credit. You did.
And I think if anything, that's one of the best things that we did is like the way we prepped and then hanging out that morning and then like being relaxed and then the rapport that like especially you and I had, but also I mean Shui and Danny and Pyle did a great job of it too. But like just giving each other crap on stage was kind of fun.
So as we kind of wind down, any parting thoughts?
If you haven't gone to OSN, or if you have, go next year. I bet it'll be even better.
Register as early as you can.
Yeah, get that early bird special.
Yeah, double down on the days for sure. I think next year we can make it even bigger. Get there early parking
was the only thing I really hated about the whole thing. It was because the parking lot was it was a little walk. At least it was nice, but that was the only thing I didn't like was the parking.
Shuttle bus,
the wedges.
Carpool.
Shuttle bus, carpool.
I don't visit the University of St. Thomas campus all that often. So our speaker parking lot, Jen, we had a different lot. We could have gone somewhere else. I know. It was in one of the lot, emails.
But no special beer line.
Slot.
This will not stand.
I actually, on my way over there, I was picking up coffee and breakfast for our friend. And then I plugged in that name of that place, right? It was like some kind of residency hall. Mm-hmm. And it brought me to St. Catherine's. And I was like, I don't see like a lot of people. I I just trusted Google Maps and I'm not a St. Paul guy at all. I rarely cross the river if I have to. So honestly, like, I think we double down the days. If you haven't put together an idea for a presentation and get it out there and work on it throughout the year, the experience of being at OSN was amazing. Speaking, especially with my friend Jen, made it even better. And then happy hour was great. The post happy hour that some of us went to was also phenomenal. Just a perfect day.
Happy hour, the post.
I just did one post. I don't. Just one post, but that was phenomenal.
One after bar,
Yeah.
Excellent.
Brought a couple of speakers with us, bunch of friends. It was phenomenal. It was a great day.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was
a great note to end on. Jen, thanks for joining us today. And I think until next time, problem. Anytime. Let's say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Do you think...
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.